Okay, so we all know that Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, or TR6, was the masterpiece that everyone was expecting back in 2003. It was riddled with bugs, was ugly, had horrible controls, and was shipped in a stage which can probably be most accurately described as the Blood 2, the Chosen state, which was a complete and utter mess. To be honest, it is a minor miracle that the game even runs on modern hardware, so some fixes and modifications of course are necessary should you, for whatever reason, decide to try it out yourself. The link to the PC Gaming Wiki article containing the relevant patches and modifications will be in the description box below this video. But you might ask, why am I even covering this title and putting myself through this process if it really is that bad? Well, recently I've been on a short marathon of sorts with the older core design Tomb Raider games. More specifically, Tomb Raider 3 through 5, as I had never really completed them back in the day. As I read things up with the Chronicles though, I thought to myself with my nostalgic glasses on that how bad the Angel of Darkness really was. Did I give it a fair go back in the day, or maybe I simply remember things being way worse than they actually were? In retrospect, no, I did not remember things being way worse than they actually were. They indeed were, and the game still is a complete and utter mess.
Shit.
Yeah, shit. Fucking right as shit.
Alas, that realization came far too late. I had already started playing the game and was set on finishing it, however bad it might end up being. And now, I shall take you all too on this journey, so you can sit back, relax, and not think about even trying this one out yourself, because yes, I will be spoiling the whole game for you. Let's begin. The story begins in Paris, where Lara Croft is visiting her past mentor, Werner von Croy, who explains that he is tracking down 5 Obscura paintings for a madman client named Eckhart, and feels like he is being tracked down by the mass murderer called the Monstrum, who has been on a rather violent and picturesque killing spree lately in Paris, so everyone is on their edge and afraid of the beast. Lara really doesn't care much about it, but agrees to go and meet a woman named Cavier. At this point, why? Nobody knows, it's not explained. Well, anyways, after a few moments, Lara blacks out, and when she comes to, Werner has already been brutally murdered. Who did it? We'll come back to that later, but as for now, Lara becomes the main suspect for the police and has to make a run for it. The cutscenes, to the most part, are pretty poor and cringy, so I shall leave some of them in the video so you can enjoy or suffer from them, whichever way you look at it.
I'd rather flee the fucking country.
So the game begins in back alley, and that's where it all was revealed. Why this game sucked so much back in the day and why it still sucks right now. The controls. My dear lord, the controls. This is probably one of the single most unresponsive games I've ever played. Not the worst, but it's definitely up there on top of the food chain. Gone are the good old days from the last entry into the series, where core design managed to streamline most of the hurdles of Lara's movements, like the crawling mechanism, and in are the extremely awkwardly unresponsive sloppy controls, where it feels like the developers really wanted to focus on smoother animations instead of responsive actions. But the problem is to an extent that the game now feels like an absolute chore to play. Also, why on earth did they change the way Lara backsteps? She now controls like a car, meaning that when you press the down arrow to walk backwards and say also the left arrow in order to back up and position her facing left, Lara now instead reverses and turns to her right. This is okay and normal behavior for vehicles, but not for human beings. It's a minor thing, but given how unresponsive the actions are in this game, these movements start to add up and start pissing you off real quick when you have to make such close quarters maneuvers. Anyways, we make it to the rooftops, and now Lara tells us that she doesn't feel strong enough to shimmy across the gap on the rooftops. Here's where the main new feature of this game kicks in. Artificially limiting the player actions because of, well, reasons. So we have to break a padlock with a crowbar, and all of a sudden, Lara now feels strong enough to shimmy the gap. This mechanic might sound like a great idea on paper, but it comes off just as a cringy artificial limitation implemented in order to waste players' time in the final product. But to make things more interesting for all of us here, let's play a game. I'm going to play every clip where Lara gains some strength in these videos, and every time you do notice it, go ahead and have a shot. You're welcome.
I feel stronger now.
Our path takes us through the rooftops, through an apartment building, through some warehouses,
My legs feel stronger.
until we finally manage to get a slip from the police and manage to track down Lady Cavier.
Who is it?
Mademoiselle Cavier, it's Lara Croft. I need your help.
Miss Croft. I recognize you from photos and Werner's description. Come in.
Thank you.
An evil night to be out alone, Miss Croft. Our streets are not safe anymore.
Mademoiselle Cavier, I have just come from Werner's apartment.
And how is Werner?
I'm afraid Werner is dead.
Dead?
Can I get you anything?
How was Werner killed? What happened?
It's all a bit vague. I arrived at his apartment today from London. He was babbling with fear.
He said he tried to contact you.
He did. I never expected that. Not after Egypt.
Werner has been fearful for his life. He accepted a commission 5 weeks ago. Since then, he's been acting strangely, jumping at shadows. He even left a package with me for safekeeping.
Package?
His notebook, addressed to you.
Who was the commission from?
The client's name was Eckhart. He wanted Werner to research something called the Obscura paintings. Werner approached me at my department at the Louvre.
Were you able to help him?
A little, I think. Poor Werner was clearly terrified.
Werner didn't scare easily.
He felt he was being stalked.
He could well have been. The monstrum is running around Paris, according to the press. You mentioned Werner's notebook earlier, mademoiselle.
His field notebook. He said he wanted you to have it if anything happened to him.
If he left his notebook, he was spooked.
You still haven't explained what happened.
There was gunfire. That's all I can recall.
Gunfire? Werner was shot? Did you kill him?
I can't remember. It's all a blur.
Miss Croft, I strongly suggest that you talk to the police.
If I wanted to kill Werner, I could have done that in Egypt.
You don't look convinced yourself.
I'm not going to waste any more time here. Do you have the notebook?
I do. It's safe for the moment.
I really am going to need Werner's notebook.
Somebody killed Werner. You say you don't remember clearly what happened. Perhaps the police are right in suspecting you.
I never killed Werner.
I think you better leave, Miss Croft.
The notebook?
I'm not sure this is the right thing, but I must respect what Werner wanted.
The right choice, mademoiselle.
And now you had better go. The police will be here in a minute.
After this nice little meeting, which is dialogue writing is almost as bad as to call my own, we ransack everything we can from the lady's apartment, as it is customary, and still are left clueless to why Lara even decided to go and see her. I mean, now it makes sense when Werner is dead and we received a notebook from her, but prior to that it makes no real sense that Lara would even agree to go and meet up with Cavier. Anyways, seems like we spent the night in a ghetto train and are free to start exploring this almost not so open world now. Let's start with the local hobos. Take a good look at this area. It is completely closed off in every direction. How do these hobos live here? From where do they get their supplies? Does someone come by daily and drop off some care packages for them? I mean, the only way out of here is by climbing the train car and then doing some serious acrobatics. Are you really suggesting that they go through all of this on a daily basis and keep coming back here? Well, not likely. Anyways, let's move on with the more important topics like what's going on here? Why can't Lara climb this tiny ledge? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's not coded to be climbable. was forgotten, or the developers thought that nobody in their right mind would ever end up on this pipe. It is a tiny oversight, but describes the overall quality of this game quite perfectly. After a brief chit-chat with a local guide, we now have multiple leads on what we should do next. Visit a clubhouse called Le Serpent Rouge, owned by Bouchard, or a local cafe called Cafe Metro, where someone might be able to have some info on Bouchard's whereabouts. If you're wondering right now, who the hell is Bouchard anyway? Then his name came up in the notebook, which was left to us by Werner, and he seems to be the only real lead which could tell us what Werner got himself into. And don't tell me to show you the notebook. It's terrible in every possible way that a digital notebook could possibly be. Maybe later. We also had a chat with a local working girl named Janice. To summarize, we now have additional information regarding people who might know where this guy Bouchard is. So firstly, a man called Bernard, who used to be a janitor for Bouchard and tends to hang around in the park area. And then there is Pierre, who runs the Cafe Metro, and he used to work as a barman for Bouchard. Additionally, we were accidentally also informed that Cavier has been brutally murdered during the night, and most probably by the monstrum. So after some aimless wandering around the streets of Paris, we arrive at Cafe Metro and look up Pierre. He explains that he has a special object stored away in Le Serpent Rouge clubhouse in one of the stage lights, and in exchange for the information on Bouchard, he wants us to go and get it. Before we leave off to do that quest though, have a good look at this bloke moping in the corner of the cafe. His name is Curtis, and he is the awkward soap opera love story of this game, during the later stages. He controls pretty much as poorly as Lara, if not worse due to some strange crawling animations, but more on him later when we do actually get to play a few levels as him. After seeking up Le Serpent Rouge, I noticed that you can get into the sewers through the manhole cover right in front of the back door to the clubhouse. I love how the level name shows up in the loading screen as Bouchard's hideout.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Well, of course, things cannot be this simple and open in a not so open world game, and we can only find some supplies down here in the trenches. Disappointed a bit that we could not break the storyline this easily, but let's get back to the clubhouse quest and find that special object for Pierre. In Le Serpent Rouge, we are expected to use stealth mechanics of the game, which could be a really interesting mechanic to be honest. Alas, it too is made too cumbersome to really bother with, thanks to the unresponsive controls. At least I tried using it at first, but seriously, every bit of movement in this game is so slow and non-responsive that the stealth mechanic only makes you wish that the game would put a shortcut to its uninstaller on your desktop during the initial install, or better yet, never actually being able to install the game in the first place. I tried many times, but in the end, that's just pointless. You get so much ammo in this game that there could easily be twice the number of enemies around each and every corner, and you would still bathe in full magazines. Anyways, ramblings aside, time to put on the beats and get the dom item from the stage light. And here's the thing with the Tomb Raider 6. This one single song from the clubhouse is probably the best thing that this game has going for it. I don't generally dig club music, but this 90s stuff reminds me a lot of the menu music content found in the old Need for Speed games like the Hot Pursuit and the High Stakes or the Porsche Unleashed. If I had to say one nice thing about this game, it would definitely be this song. The YouTube link for the full song will be left in the video description below.
I'm not strong enough. I feel stronger now.
Whilst in the club, yeah, see this lever? Yes, that one, which distinctly stands out from the general scenery, crying out to be pulled. Well, I have never been able to pull this lever. What does it do? I can see clearly that there is an icon for an available action to be performed here, but Lara does absolutely nothing with it. I can stand here all day and hammer the the control key, alas, without success. Will this lever blow up the whole club, or just fix the game? Who knows? If you have ever been able to pull it, please do let me know, as I am more than curious in regards to what it actually does, if it does anything at all. But well, pulling off some acrobatics, some other lever action, marvelous gunfights through unbreakable glass windows, and one special gemstone from the broken stage light later, we head on back to finish up the deal with Pierre, who tells us that, well, he doesn't know Bouchard's whereabouts, yet his ex-girlfriend Francine does. How reassuring. He provides us with her address, the gate code, and arranges the meeting. As a side note, we also learned that Curtis, whilst moping in the corner of the cafe, had overheard our last conversation and is now also looking for Bouchard. In any case, off we go to give Francine a visit. Also, in case you were wondering about the other lead, Bouchard's ex-janitor Bernard, who wanders around the park, don't. He's useless to look up. My bet is that he's a red herring, or more probably his side of the story was never finished and implemented into the game because, you know, having branching quest lines and multiple means to an end is difficult and takes time to implement, time which there definitely wasn't enough for fixing up the base game. So we arrive at Francine's place. I like her. Zero small talk or other BS and straight to the point. She does not even greet us or ask us who we are and how would we get in. She just starts off with the details regarding Bouchard's whereabouts.
Bouchard is in the old church. You need to find a mausoleum in the churchyard. It leads down into the church basement.
Anyways, we shall be making our path through the cemetery and the mausoleum to check in with Bouchard and see what information we can get out of him.
I feel stronger now. I feel stronger now.
And if by any chance, at any point, you are lost in the story or don't know what you're supposed to do next, then don't worry. Everything gets noted down into the notebook which Werner left you. Theoretically. The problem, however, is that the notebook's ordering is so messed up that I really could not tell what the hell was going on at any point in the game based on this notebook. Why is there so little text on every page? Why doesn't the little text that there is fit on the pages? Why isn't there an index? Why isn't this a normal notebook where new entries just get added to the latest available page? It is useless, and it is frustrating if you wish to look something up, like after returning to the game 1 week later and trying to figure out what exactly it is that you were supposed to do next. The amount of frustration that using this notebook provides is also frustratingly amplified by the frustratingly slow and cumbersome inventory menu, which you absolutely must go through in order to even open the frustrating notebook. Why can't there be a simple hotkey binding, which brings up the notebook as it is, you know, kind of essential for telling the player what the hell they are expected to do next? Did I mention how frustrating this whole ordeal is? Well, after reaching Bouchard in his little underground hideout, a pro tip is to not piss him off too much or he'll finish Lara off within a cutscene. Anyways, our magic man Bouchard tells us that Von Croy wanted to access recent archaeological diggings happening under the Louvre, and Bouchard gave him a contact, Daniel Renz, a pawnbroker, also our next subject for a visit. We get some passports to deliver to Daniel, and in exchange he should be able to give us some information on Werner's past dealings with him and provide us access to the dig site. Hopefully. Oh lord, it feels like we've been talking for ages already about this game, but I've just noticed that I've only covered about 2 hours of the total 12 hours of footage that I have on this game, and we're not even 1/4 of the way through the game's storyline so far. So okay, I think we need to speed things up a notch, and not go into so much details on the storyline. I'll try to cover the main points as we go along from now on out, and not get stuck on the details.